ladies. Welcome to Exodus Summit. I'm Adelia Borchade, coming to you from Mexico City, Mexico. I moved abroad 4 years ago, initially to Honduras. Since then, I've lived in Mexico, I've lived in China, I've lived in Kuwait, I've traveled to I think something like 45 countries, and the vast majority of those I have traveled to solo. And so I'm really excited to share with you some tips and tricks about how to put together your first solo trip.
All right, so let's get to it. There are lots of questions that come up when women are thinking about solo traveling, especially if they have never done travel on their own before. Maybe you're not sure if solo travel is the right move for you. You're still unsure about it, and you're really questioning, like, why should I go by myself? Maybe I should just go with my friends or my significant other. Well, the reality is, if you wait on your friends, you may be waiting forever. Your friends may not have the time off that you have. They may not have the desire or the motivation. They may not have the follow through. They may not have the funds. The last thing I want to happen to you is for you to miss out on the joy that is travel because you were waiting for other people. And the thing is, there are so many benefits to traveling on your own. The most obvious is that you get to go where you want to go, when you want to go, without having to, compromise and consider, well, what do the other people in the group want to go? When I think about solo travel in contrast to traveling like on a group tour, it's only when you solo travel that your time is really yours and you call the shots, you set up the itinerary. You got complete independence. If you want to spend the day in bed because the hotel is gorgeous and you are tired, you can completely do that when you travel by yourself. Solo travel also allows you to have some quiet time, some me time, some individual time. You talk to a lot of ladies who travel by themselves. They talk about how they can get, so much clarity because they don't have all those distractions of what they're trying to be to other people. It's just it's just themselves. You're totally responsible for yourself in every way. And that's empowering, that is refreshing, and I personally think it's just all around awesome. So there are a ton of benefits to traveling solo, but I do realize that if you've never done it before, the whole process can be daunting. Where do you start? What do you need to know? What do you need to figure out? Well, there's really basic planning, just like you would if you were doing a group trip. Where do you want to go? When do you want to go? What do you want to do? One question that I get a lot is, how long should my trip be? Okay, so how long should your trip be? Well, if you are doing a sabbatical, your sabbatical might be 6 months, it might be 9, it might be 12 months, however long. It might be helpful not to think of it in terms of that long trip, but instead a series of shorter trips. That may make the logistical issues of planning a little easier to handle. Your personality, I think, is going to play into this. You may be somebody who really hates having to pack up their stuff and move from one destination to another. So that's going to determine how long you stay in a place. Or maybe you have very much a nomadic spirit and you will want to move along quickly. Your budget is definitely going to determine how long you can stay someplace. It may be that you have your heart set on going to Switzerland. Switzerland is not known for being budget friendly. So maybe you are very select about the amount of time that you spend in Switzerland to kind of maximize your budget. So you spend less time there and maybe more time in a more affordable location. Or you just want to live life to the max and blow your whole wad in Switzerland. Well, just know that's not going to carry you as long. Some activities, like if you want to attend a festival, assuming, this is after COVID, you want to attend a festival, you want to attend a concert, a specific event, like you want to do dinner en blanc in Paris. Well, that's only going to happen on a specific date. And so you'll want to schedule things in such a way that you have enough time to be there to prepare, to enjoy the event, and recover afterwards. There are some places that don't really require a lot of time. Back in January, I visited Slovakia and went to the capital of Slovakia, and really and truly, I saw everything I needed in one afternoon. I did not need to dedicate a whole lot of time out of my itinerary to that particular location. So those things are going to determine how long you need to stay someplace. Where should you go on this trip or on this series of trips? Again, that depends. What are your personal preferences? Are you a city girl? Do you love the mountains? Do you love the beach? Are you basically a mermaid? That is going to play a role in your selection of locations. The worst thing you could do is absolutely adore the beach, but then book trips that never take you near the water. How do you think you can do with language barriers? I speak English. I speak really bad toddler Spanish, yet I am not somebody who lets that stop me from going to a place. As long as I got my cell phone and I've got Google Translate, I will pretty much go anywhere. There are some people who, navigating language barriers is more difficult for them. So if you know that's you, you're going to want to take that into consideration as you're choosing a location. Weather. Are you like Stephanie and you are boycotting winter? That's going to determine where you go and when you go. You don't want to pick a southern hemisphere location like Buenos Aires or South Africa and you're trying to go in August, you're trying to go in July because that's the winter time for them. You might also want to think about hurricane season or wildfire season or what have you. Cost. There are some locations that are more budget friendly than others. You can go wherever you want, but you do need to keep that in mind so that you can kind of maximize your money as you're planning your trip. As a first-time solo traveler, I firmly believe you can go anywhere you want. Maybe India would be a bad idea, okay? But for the most part, as a first-time solo traveler, you can go anywhere you want. To help you out, I'm going to give you a list of destinations I think work really well for that first solo trip because they are relatively easy to navigate. You don't have really complicated safety issues, that sort of thing. And that there's also a variety of things for you to do. In the US, if you want to take your first solo trip domestically, I think New Orleans makes a great destination. It's pretty easy to get around, even if you don't want to rely on Uber and things like that. Depending where you stay in the city, if you're near the main attractions, it's very walkable. The streetcar is affordable. Washington, D.C. is another very easy place. Washington, D.C. is well put together for tourists. And so as a first-time solo traveler, this is an easy destination. Tons of stuff to do, great restaurants, great mass transit. If you want to get out of the city, Hawaii is a good, easy choice. You've got mountains, you've got beaches, you can hike, you can snorkel. It's a good destination, fairly easy. And when I say fairly easy, the tourist infrastructure is there that if you're trying to navigate it alone, it's fairly easy to book a tour, to get a guide, to get assistance. The U.S. Virgin Islands, I see myself on a powdered snow beach in the Caribbean. Well, remember, there are 3 U.S. Virgin Islands. That means, and since they're part of the United States, you don't need a passport. If you want to go internationally, Thailand is an awesome destination. It is budget friendly. There are lots of things to do. If you remain in tourist areas, which, shouldn't be difficult to do, finding English speakers is not difficult. The Thai people are very welcoming. Most of Western Europe is very easy to navigate, even if you are in countries where English is not an official language. Again, the tourist infrastructure is there, the transport infrastructure is there, that you can navigate it fairly easy on your own with minimal assistance, and English speakers are abundant. Same thing in the UAE. English is widely spoken because of the number of foreigners in the country. Outside of Arabic, English is going to be the next most spoken language. Iceland, a personal favorite of mine. If you don't want to do city life, Iceland is a great choice. It's a beautiful choice, and their economy is heavily dependent on tourists. So as somebody trying to navigate on your own, Iceland is very easy. Not the most budget friendly, but definitely an easy place to go, a great experience. Flight deals. You've heard people talk about, oh, I got an airfare and I was able to fly round trip to South Africa for $250. How did they find that? In my personal experience, I booked a flight from Los Angeles to Bangkok, returning out of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I think I spent $357. Okay, how did I find that? How do you find flight deals? Okay, so how do you get flight deals? This is where I find my flight deals. You can either sign up to be on their email list, or you can follow them on social media. You can pay for sort of a VIP level where you get more exclusive deals, or you get more specific, like you say, I'm planning a trip to South America, and they can give you more specialized content. But you can access all 5 of these for free, and they are constantly posting deals or error fares. Error fares are when there's some kind of computer glitch somewhere, or the airline made a mistake. They posted a really cheap flight, and you can buy that really cheap flight, but it may or may not make it. May get canceled, and then you'll get your money back. Now, once you arrive to your destination, wherever that is, how are you going to get around? You don't have those other people with you. It's just you by yourself. How do you do that? You can fly between cities. You can take buses. You can take trains. Which one of these is appropriate is going to depend on where in the world you are. The United States isn't the best when it comes to train travel. We're much better at highway travel, like if you rent a car, or flights. In Europe, I was in Europe in January. I took buses, trains, and flights between 10 different countries in 30 days. How did I find out? Well, what bus should I take? Which train? How much? Rome to Rio. Anytime I am planning a trip and I am trying to figure out how to navigate from one place to another, this is the site I use. They also have an app. It is free. You can purchase tickets through their site, or you can purchase tickets directly from the airline, the bus company, what have you. As you are trying to sort this out and make your plans and book your tickets, here are a couple of helpful pieces of advice that I have learned, some the easy way, some I've learned the hard way. It is better to buy directly from the airline, the bus company, whomever, instead of a third-party site. I think a lot of people have learned this lesson with the pandemic. You booked a package through Expedia or, some no-name third-party site. And then when the world shut down, you had a really difficult time getting your money back or getting a refund or getting somebody on the phone. If I am booking a flight, let's say on Secret Flying, they've posted a flight deal. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to go to the airline that they list. I'm going to go to that airline's website and I'm going to see, can I get the same price by going through the airline's website? If I can, I will book directly through the airline. It makes refunds, changes to your reservation, all that kind of stuff so much easier. Also, there are some third-party sites that will charge you extra fees by booking through them that you may not be aware of. When you are looking for flights, depending on if you're using Chrome or Firefox or whatever web browser you are using, there is going to be an option for you to browse privately or incognito. You will also want to clear your cookies. Now, what is this all about? A cookie is a little piece of software that tells the website you're going to, it tells them stuff about you. Well, if you've been searching for airfare for a specific date to a specific location, that information can be transmitted in a cookie. That means they know you're looking, and sometimes prices adjust upward because they know you are looking. If you want to get the lowest price possible, you need them to not know your search history and that sort of thing, which is why anytime I am booking any kind of travel related accommodation, what have you, I always either browse incognito or I open a private browser. I make sure I clear my cookies because I don't want them tracking what I've been doing and raising their prices on me. Always compare before you buy. You might be wondering, well, isn't it better to book a flight on a specific day at a specific time? I have read tons and tons of articles, and I have come to the conclusion that there is no conclusion. Everybody's got a different opinion. I've subscribed to the philosophy of buy the ticket when it is the price that you feel comfortable paying. Before I buy, I do like to compare in different places. And again, I'm doing this in an incognito or a private browser. I will have, not even on separate tabs, I will open a whole new browser window for Google Flights, Skyscanner, Momondo, and I will put in the same search information to see, am I getting the same flight? The same price across, or who's giving me the cheapest price? And I'll go from there. Okay, I want to see to make sure that I'm paying the best price that I can. I also will set price alerts. So if I am anticipating travel, I know, let's say I've got to go to Mexico, in September, in October, I will set a price alert. I'll pick a flight and then I'll set an alert and it will send me emails. The price has gone up, the price has gone down. Most websites like Google Flights, Skyscanner, Kayak, if you use the app Hopper, most of all of them will allow you some way to set a price alert to keep you aware, to let you know when there's a big fluctuation in price. Sometimes I will even set a price alert maybe a year out if I know that far ahead, because I kind of want to see historically what prices have done so I can kind of gauge when the right time might be for me to buy that ticket. Always remember to be flexible. If you can be flexible about location, if you can be flexible about date, about time, about airline, anything you can, the more flexible you can be, the more likely you're going to be able to get your ticket at a price that you really feel good about paying. My philosophy, I tend not to plan things. I tend to travel by the deal. So I find the flight deal first, and then I build a trip around it. Some people have, a much smaller window of opportunity to travel. And so they may not have flexibility on dates. And so following the deal may not work for them. But they are flexible at what time they can go. They're flexible about the airline. Anything that you can be flexible on is going to help you get a lower price. Another thing that will help you in the price department is considering indirect flights. Our instinct is, I'm flying from Houston to Miami. I want a direct flight that goes right there. That is likely to be the most expensive ticket. If you are willing to book a flight that has a stopover somewhere, you can probably significantly cut down the cost of that flight. If you are traveling internationally, you can build in a layover into your trip and really turn it into a 2-for-1 kind of deal. When I flew to Ghana, I flew on Turkish Airlines, and I ended up with like almost a 24-hour layover each way on my trip. So instead of just having a trip to Ghana, I got a trip to Ghana and to Istanbul in Turkey, all for one price. Okay, so this does not work for everybody. Some people are like, no, I do not want a layover. I want to get where I need to go and I want to be there. That's fine. But if you can be flexible here, if this appeals to you, you can definitely sometimes get some really great prices on airfare if you're willing to consider indirect flights or layovers. Where should you stay? As a solo traveler, you have a lot of options. A lot of people only want to stay at hotels. There is nothing wrong with that. There is the whole gamut you have as far as hotels go, especially if you're part of a hotel loyalty program and you're earning points, and then you can redeem those points for stays. That's great. I would also recommend that you consider boutique hotels, not just the big brand name hotels. Some of the best and most beautiful places I've ever stayed have been small boutique hotels that maybe have something like 10 rooms, 20 rooms, 30 rooms. These have been some of the coolest experiences I've had. Using sites like booking.com. If you are searching in Asia, agoda.com are really good. Then, of course, there is Airbnb, vacation rental by owner, and those kinds of sites where you can, especially if you're staying someplace long term, if you plan to spend a month somewhere, that's going to be difficult to afford in a hotel. And so Airbnb and those kind of home sharing sites are really good if you're staying someplace longer, you want to save money by having access to a kitchen so you could cook, or you want some really unique accommodations, you want something fun. That's always a great option. Hostels. I think hostels don't get enough love. I will be honest, I've stayed at some crappy hostels, but I have stayed at some really gorgeous hostels. You have to do your research just like you have to do with any place that you are staying. You need to read the reviews. You need to look at the pictures. You need to ask questions. A lot of people like to stay at hostels as a way of meeting other travelers. That is not why I choose to stay at hostels. I choose to stay at them because they are very budget friendly. But they can be budget friendly, they can be in great locations, they can provide opportunities to meet and connect with other travelers that you might not get if you're staying in a hotel, because you kind of go straight to your room, you don't really interact with other people. Or if you're staying at an Airbnb, especially if you've rented the whole place and you're not just getting a room, again, it might be more difficult to interact with other people. So if connecting with other people is important to you, you definitely want to consider staying in a hostel. I will also say that sites like TripAdvisor, booking.com, they have expanded, and they're not just hotels anymore. You can look on TripAdvisor, you can look on booking.com, you can look on agoda.com, and you can actually have the results give you hotels, apartments, hostels. They can give you a variety of accommodations all in one place. So you can kind of compare the amenities of different kinds of accommodations all in one place. If you are looking to save even more money than one would save staying in a hostel, you've got to consider work exchange or house sitting. We all know that Miss Stephanie Perry is the queen of house sitting, and we know that that's a great way to get free accommodation. Work exchange kind of works similarly. Workaway is a good work exchange program where you can search by the kind of work you're willing to do or by the location you want to be in and find people who will be willing to give you a place to stay. Sometimes it's individual accommodation, sometimes it's a room in the house, sometimes it even includes a meal. But work exchange is another way that you can get really affordable, i.e. free accommodations. So you're traveling by yourself. What are you going to do? It's just you all by yourself. You don't have your friends. You don't have your significant other. Well, you can do anything you want. You can do any and everything you want. You can take tours. And I have done all of these things myself. I have booked Airbnb experiences. I went to Tequila, Mexico, and visited a tequila distillery and had a tequila tasting. You can do tours on there. You can, With Locals is another website, Get Your Guide, Viator. All of them will allow you to book tours and different kinds of activities. Most of them don't require more than one person. Okay, because you register yourself solo and then there will be other people there. There is no solo supplement. That's why I like these sites. When you book a traditional tour, like an all-inclusive tour package vacation, often if you're traveling alone, they will charge you a single supplement. If you book a tour of a specific city or a specific area using one of these sites, you can book just for yourself and not be charged extra money. What else can you do? You could hire a private guide. Remember, one of the benefits of doing a solo trip is that you get to do any and everything that only you want to do. So a private guide, you can kind of build your own itinerary and visit those things you want to see. What I like about Show Around is it's a website sort of like With Locals or Airbnb Experiences, which also have private tours on them. But with Show Around, they give you the person's hourly rate. So you can kind of put together your own program and figure out, instead of it being a flat fee experience, you could book somebody for 6 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is you need. Something cool about context travel, let's say you want a tour, but you want an expert. You want somebody who's got a master's degree or a PhD. That's what they specialize in. So if you're really into Aztec history, let's say, you could book somebody on context travel and really go deep into the topic that you're interested in. not just going to a restaurant and going out to eat, but you can take cooking classes. You can take culinary experiences where you kind of do the whole farm to table thing. On Airbnb experiences, you can do that. Eat with and Traveling Spoon are two other places where it's super easy as a solo traveler to book a foodie type experience by yourself. And one of my favorite activities are free walking tours. Literally every place I go, as I'm planning the trip, I Google free walking tour and the name of the city I'm in. No matter how big or how small the city is, there is typically some company or someone who does a free walking tour. Now, are those tours really free? No. They are pay what you feel. Based on your experience, you get to decide how much you pay them, and the money goes directly to the tour guide. So if you're really wanting to help out somebody locally, that's a very easy way to help them out directly. Safety is always a concern when women travel solo. I think we need to remember that in our everyday life, we typically do lots of things alone. We do lots of things solo, and we do okay at that. Okay, so traveling is not much different than the life you lead on a day-to-day basis. So how can you stay safe? Well, number one, use common sense. Don't go into neighborhoods that you would never go into in your regular life. Being a dark tourist and going to the most dangerous area in a city, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Be aware of your surroundings. Make sure that you aren't doing things that would make you a target. So you're out walking at night, but you keep looking down at your phone, looking at your map. That's not a really smart way to be. Plan your route before you leave. Common sense. Keep a low profile. Don't be flashy. Don't wear expensive jewelry and, like have money hanging out of your pocket. Don't do things that make you stand out and make you look like a target. Try and blend in as much as possible. Now, again, you're going to be traveling, you've got your camera and that sort of thing. And so you store your camera in your backpack. You might switch your backpack around to the front instead of wearing it on your back. That way, if you do have to deal with pickpockets, they have to come at you from the front. You're not an easy target. They will choose someone else. Again, don't dress overly flashy, having out the most expensive things, because those are things that will draw the attention of less than savory folks. And then let people know your plans. That's really the big thing. I use an app called TripIt. And one of the great things that I love about TripIt is you can put all of your plans for your travel in there, your flights, your hotels, whatever activities. I put everything I plan to do, and as I'm even on my trip, I add additional information like, oh, I just found out about Chinatown, where that's located in Mexico City. I'm going to wander around there. I will literally put on TripIt, wander around Chinatown, and I'll put an approximate time. And you can share your itinerary with other people. That way, if something were to happen to me, they know where I was staying, they know what my plans were for the day. They can, trace back my path and figure out what went wrong. So make sure people know what you're up to. If you're taking a ride share like an Uber, a Lyft, a Didi, within those apps, you can share your ride. So let's say you land and it's dark, it's at night, and you're trying to get from the airport to your accommodation, and you want somebody to know, hey, I'm in this car with this person. During your Uber trip, you can share that trip with a friend back home, and so they can literally follow your progress as you drive through the city and know when you arrive. Something else you can do is when you're traveling outside of the US, register with the State Department. They have a program called the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. I think we saw with the pandemic how important this was, because one, this lets the State Department know, hey, we have a citizen that's in this place. And two, it lets you receive updates and communication from the State Department. So if you go to step.state.gov, you can register for this program. It is completely free. Like I said, they will communicate with you, let you know if there's any kind of issues going on in the country, like was there a terrorist attack? Is there a hurricane coming? During the pandemic, as people were trying to get flights home, a lot of that information was communicated through this program. You need travel insurance, okay? There are no ifs, ands, or buts about this. You need travel insurance. One of the things that people often do is, okay, I'm booking my flight. At the end, right when you're getting ready to pay, they will post something about, oh, would you like to insure your ticket or what have you? Don't do that. Whatever travel insurance or you buy it separately. Because if you think about it, your airline is not, they're about making money. Their priority is not about making sure that you're covered if there's an emergency, okay? And my experience has been that when you book the flight insurance or the ticket insurance or whatever from the airline at the time that you're buying your ticket, that coverage tends not to cover most of the situations that you need it to. And so it's really a way for them to generate extra revenue and rarely provides you with much security. It is better to book your travel insurance separately. Now, I won't give you specific companies because, you may have AAA membership and you could get a discount here. Everybody's situation is different, but there are certain things that you should look for when you're buying travel insurance. It needs to cover emergency medical treatment. And whatever health insurance you have in the US, it is highly unlikely that it will cover you when you leave. You need a policy that covers emergency medical treatment when you are outside the United States or even in the United States, because we all know that a lot of insurance plans, if you are out of network or what have you, they will give you a hard time about covering that incident. So emergency medical treatment is a must. Medical evacuation is absolutely necessary if you are going to be traveling outside the United States, because if you're, let's say, in Guatemala and the medical facilities there are not great and can't really give you the care that you need, and you need to get back to the United States, that could be $50,000. And if you can't pay, you're going to have a hard time with that. So medical evacuation, emergency evacuation, you definitely need that coverage. You also want to look for a policy that covers trip interruption. Was your trip interrupted because you got sick? Like a friend of mine had a bout of vertigo. And so she was part of a larger tour, but when it was time for them to move on to the next stop, she couldn't go because of her vertigo. So that interrupted her trip. Luckily, her travel insurance did cover that. If something happens that interrupts your trip, for there's some reason you can't continue on the trip, you want that kind of coverage. That's different than cancellation. Trip cancellation is different. There are policies that do cancel for any reason. They will give you up to a certain percentage of your cost back if you've got to cancel. But you do want your travel insurance to cover flight delays or flight cancellations, because something may happen and your flight may get delayed or your flight may get canceled, and Yes, that airline will try and get you where you need to go, but sometimes they can't. There are some locations where there's like one flight a day. And so you lose an entire day. Well, then that means your hotel, whatever rental car or what have you had already booked, all of those costs you would have to eat if you don't have a delay or cancellation cost associated with that coverage. Lost or stolen baggage. You get someplace and you find out your bag didn't make it. You want to be able to buy the things you need to be comfortable and be reimbursed for those, especially if your bag never shows up. So that's coverage you also want to make sure you have. And finally, supplier bankruptcy. You booked a tour, you booked a hotel, you booked an excursion, but that company has gone out of business. How do you get your money back? A lot of people had this happen with bookit.com very recently, like right before the pandemic started. Bookit was not, they went out of business. Even though people had paid them the money, they were not paying the hotels. And when people would check out of the hotel demanded to be paid. Having supplier bankruptcy coverage would help protect you a little bit from that. A big concern when we travel solo is, will I be lonely? Will I be by myself? Well, how am I going to meet other people? Because there are times when you want to be alone on your trip, but then there are times when you want to connect with other people. How can you do that? These 3 tools can take care of you. Adventurely, I really like. It was created by a Black woman. You register. It's free to register. You choose the location and the kind of activities you want to do. And especially if it's the kind of activity that really works better as a group, other solo travelers or travelers in small groups, y'all can connect there and do that activity together. You don't have to spend the entire trip together, but you can kind of make travel dates in essence with other travelers. Meetup is a great way to meet people when you are staying someplace short term, or even if you're staying long term, you're staying someplace a month or 2. Meetup, you want to know, what kind of events there are going on in the area. You want to connect with other people with similar interests. Meetup is great. And then, of course, there is Tinder. You want to go on a date while you're traveling? Tinder is your best bet. It is the most widely used dating app in the world, but there's also a non-dating application of Tinder. You can tweak your profile and connect with other travelers, or you can connect with a local who, can play tour guide for you. You just want to connect with people in the city, you can use Tinder for that. It doesn't have to be romantic. But if you do want to get romantic, Tinder can help with that as well. How will I take good pictures? This is probably right behind safety and security, the number one concern, because as you're traveling alone, you don't have that person there to take your picture. First thing, get yourself a tripod. You see a Gorilla tripod here, you will notice it can work with a cell phone, it can work with a full frame camera, it can work with a regular point and shoot camera, whatever. And notice how the arms are bendable, so you can adjust it and kind of take the place of another person. So you have the tripod, you set the timer, you can take your pictures. That's one option. Let's say you don't have a tripod and you're looking around for somebody to take your picture. Look for teenage girls or women who are in their early 20s, somebody who looks like they understand how to compose pictures for like Instagram, because they're gonna take the picture in such a way so that you aren't looking crazy. They know what's up. They know how to help you. Okay, so let's say there are no young women around. Look for the people with nice cameras. A couple of reasons for this. One, they're not going to steal your camera. And two, they understand something about photography. Your odds of getting good pictures will be much better. If none of those options works for you or is applicable in your situation, you can always book a photographer. This does not have to be expensive. Airbnb Experiences has a ton of photographers on there. I did this when I was in London. For $25 US, I got some of the best, most professional pictures I've ever taken. It was a way, I got a private photo shoot. I got to hang out with a local who took me to places I never would have considered before. So actually booking a photographer, this is a nice hack because it frees you up from having to think about how to take the pictures, how to pose for the pictures. You can just enjoy what you're doing and let them worry about capturing those memories for you. I want to give you a personal invitation to join the Solo Sisters network on Facebook. It is a space created specifically, especially for Black women solo travelers. It is an inclusive space. If you want to connect with me directly, I am Picky Girl Travels on Facebook and on Instagram, or you can go to my blog where there is some travel content from my various solo travels, www.pickygirltravelstheworld.com.